back in 2013. We actually, Stephanie and I started dreaming this up on a couch in a hotel in Louisville.
During a tornado.
During a tornado. At the National Youth Workers Convention. Matt was there. Remember when that car, there was a family that their car was just destroyed on the way from Indiana. They drove through that tornado. I'll never forget that. And I grew up in Indiana, and so it was a scary sight to see that tornado coming across.
You didn't mention we were sitting on a couch next to a big giant window.
Yes, we were. We were actually sitting on a couch next to a big giant window watching the dark skies across Indiana.
And we said, we
should
should maybe move.
Yeah, we probably should.
But we
It was so cool
didn't.
I've always wanted to be a storm chaser, and my wife has always said it'll have to be with my second wife, so I thought maybe.
Okay.
Shelly sometimes over the past 5 years has wondered if Stephanie is my second wife, so maybe it's started. Okay. So we're so excited again to have you here. And we want to talk about, my purpose for this time is to talk about why we're here. Hope my thing will work. If not, I'll push the little fancy button. So why are we here? We're here because our goal is to help all of our churches, all of our people who serve in ministry, have the tools, the resources, the skills, the confidence to be in ministry with everyone. And so my first several years at the conference office, and I appreciate, sometimes I told Lloyd the other day that some days I thank him for hiring me, and some days I curse him for hiring me. Today I thank him for hiring me. So over this time, we have done ministry development training in different ways. But a few years ago, around 2011, 2012, we felt that the way that we were doing it was not sufficient. Because not that we weren't doing good training and we weren't giving good information and so on, but as I looked at the number of people who had gone through the training model that we had been using called Youth Ministry Institute, which is wonderful, we were training one person at a church, and sometimes the difficulty was for that person to go back and translate it back into the rest of the church, and sometimes they were successful and sometimes they weren't, and so they struggled to build momentum unless they were the one building it. And so as we started to talk to each other about what we could do, we felt that there was a need to begin training teams. And so fast forward through to now, and to last spring, when the bishop asked me to take on children's and family ministry also, and then we developed Next Gen Discipleship as that area. So I oversee ministries with children, youth, young adults, college, and family ministry. And then also, I'm the lead trainer for safe spaces, so sexual ethics and safe sanctuaries, and we'll talk about that later today. So that's sort of why we got the idea going, but it wasn't really until we looked at the real numbers that we decided to do it. And here I want you to think. We found as we were talking to churches, especially smaller congregations, and when we say smaller is all relative to what you think you are. I attend a church that up until I told them when I was the church council chair that they weren't a small church anymore, they thought they were still a small church. Okay? So smaller is all relative to who you are. But across the United States, I want to give you some real numbers about what that looks like. Okay? So this is what it looks like. As we hear about churches greater than 2,000, those mega churches, that really only makes up about 0.05% of the churches, the 300,000 congregations in the U.S. And as you look across, those numbers continue to get just a little bit more until you hit the 499, or less. 35% of churches are in that 499 or less range. And then 59% of the churches worship 99 or less. So in the middle there, between 99 or less and that 499, there's a number that's around, that if you add the 59 to it, we're talking about maybe even more than that. Probably into the 80s to 80% of churches worship in the 150 or down in the U.S. So what this tells me is that across the United States, smaller is not abnormal. It's the norm. Smaller is not bad. It's what we have where we are, right? And so we're not here to say to you that we think that you have a disease of some kind, okay? So that's not what we're here to say to you. What we're here to say to you is that we want to give you some tools that will help you be better in the community where you are. And if that means that you continue to be in that Worship 100 range, but you're reaching kids, you're reaching families, you're reaching people, you're building disciples, more power to you. But we also believe, and as Mandy and Christy and Christine and Chandra and Stephanie can tell you, that if you apply this, if you commit the stuff that we're doing, if you really commit to the coaching, then you're going to see a difference in the size of your congregation, in the size of the numbers of kids and families coming also. Okay? You're also going to see a difference in those people willing to serve. But here's the other thing that I want you to understand. We have about 600 congregations in the Tennessee Conference. 82% of them worship 100 or less. 82%. Okay? And so, we often hear about what the great big churches are doing, but we don't hear about the great things that smaller and medium-sized congregations are doing. Well, our goal is to change that narrative. All right? Our goal is to change that narrative. And over the past 4 years, we have worked with 48 different churches who have begun to change their narrative. And we want to do that with you over this next year. Okay? Because the real reason is, it's not just about the numbers, because each number represents a real person. And that's what we have to think about. The real people that are in your congregation every day, that they're there, and the real people that are out in your community. I'm one of those guys who truly believes in the United Methodist Church's open hearts, open doors, open minds. The thing about it is that open door really is not just for people to walk inside, but the purpose of that open door is for us to go outside. Okay? For us to be outside.
Amen.
I heard a preacher say the other day, yesterday we were at the Global Leadership Summit, and he said, the building where we come together is a place to gather as the church, but we're to be the church outside those doors. That's where we want people to know us as the church. And that's what we find that we need to do. As I saw over the years receiving charge conferences and reports and stuff like that from churches who said on the question of children and youth and so on in their community, to say the word, there are no children, there are no youth in our community, I believe that's wrong. I believe it's wrong. And I believe that if you're not looking for it, then you're not going to see it. Okay? If you're not looking for it, you're not going to see it. Because you will become what you believe about yourself. Okay? And so if you believe yourself as a church that's going to be active in the community, you will become that. If you see your church as a place that welcomes children and family and youth, you will become that. Okay? And so that's what we want to be about while we're together here this year. Because you matter, your ministry matters, your families matter, and your church community matters. You got to understand that. And so as we think about the mission of the Tennessee Conference, to discover, equip, connect, and send lay clergy leaders into who shape congregations that offer Jesus Christ to a hurting world, one neighborhood at a time. That's what we're about. That's who you are. Real ministry does not happen at Warmth and Winter in its own, or at Summer Sizzler, or at the Bee Retreat. Real ministry happens when they go back to your church, and you're there to love them and talk to them and process with them. Real ministry happens when you're sending them out into the community, and so on. And so, our role, and this is what the bishop has charged our staff with at the Connectional Ministries Office, is to assist the local church to increase their capacity to make disciples of Jesus Christ. So that's what we're going to be about, but there's some things that you're going to have to commit in this process, okay? And so we're going to talk about those commitments real quick. You're going to have to commit some time. So we're asking you to commit your time to being here for these training days. Okay, you already know the dates. Put them on your calendar. make sure your church is here. Okay? If for some reason you have a conflict with someone and you see that coming up, recruit somebody to fill your spot. Okay? We want the more people we have here, the better this ministry opportunity will be for your church. Okay? The homework. Yes, there's homework. Okay? Because we're only together for 4 training days, and because we believe in what we're doing and we believe in the books that you've received, there's homework that you're going to be doing. And in your binder, you can see that homework there. We're going to talk about it real quick in just a minute. There'll be coaching calls. So in the months that you're not with us, so starting in September, you'll have a coaching call with one of your coaches, and I'll tell you who that person is in just a minute. Okay? And then discussions with your team. Don't just let this be like the average person attending church today, maybe one time a month. That's the only time you get together. Okay? Have discussions outside of this time together. Meet regularly. When you're reading and you're talking about the chapters, talk with each other about them. If you can't get together, then set up a Google Doc and just put your comments in there. Like my wife. So this homework, if you look at the homework handout in your binder, we're going to look at that real quick. It seems like a lot, but it's really not. Because there's a process to how we're asking you to read your book. So you have 2 books. You have, we actually have 3 books. The most important book is your Bible. Okay? Some will say the next most important book in youth ministry is the Sustainable Youth Ministry book by Mark DeVries, and that will be our main resource that we use. And then many of us in the room would say that the 3rd most important book is a book that Stephanie wrote, and I did too, called Smaller Church Youth Ministry. And here's the thing that I want you to think about in this cohort. If you're here for youth ministry, then you don't have to take the word youth out. Okay? If you're here for children's ministry, then drop in children where youth is. Okay? If you're here for young adult ministry, drop in young adults where youth is. Adult ministry, drop that in. The stuff that we teach, whether it's in Sustainable or whether it's in Smaller Church Youth Ministry book, will apply to any age level of ministry. We tried to write a resource that could do that. And the thing about both of these books, Mark's book that we're going to use is the technical, practical sort of how do we do these things. This book has both technical and practical, and then it also has some stories of real folks that went through the cohort just like you are right now. Okay? It has narratives from them. It has Michael Williams, who just retired from West End and is out on this author circuit. He talks about his call story that happened in a smaller congregation. Okay? So it's a great book, and so we want you to make sure that you're reading it. Okay? And then people. We want you to commit to people being here. Okay? And so it's great to see all of you. And if you struggle to get some people here, then have your coach help you figure out how to get some other folks here. Okay? So we want you to commit to people being here. We want to commit to people being on the coaching call. We want you to commit to having people a part of the visioning process and part of the planning process. I'm coaching a young lady that is a youth minister out in New Jersey, and her biggest challenge, she's in a church of about 60, and I'm coaching one in Texas of a church of about 700, and both of them say their biggest problem is volunteers. Okay? Okay? And so both of them have committed a process. But what the one in New Jersey said was what she's found now that she's started to build her team, that this team has helped bring legitimacy to her and her ministry because she's not out there by herself. Okay? She's not out there standing in front of the church saying, we need you to be here. Instead now there's a team saying, we need you to be here. Okay? And then sharing, talking to each other at the table, talking to other churchmen, people from other congregations. Take the opportunity to fully engage in conversation when we're discussing and when we're participating. And then the other part is money, because money is what helps fund some of this stuff. And so, we've asked each church to contribute $300. But the total investment, if we're honest, if we really want to give you the full number, it's close to $2,000.
Per church.
Per church that we're investing into each church. So we have 18 churches here. Okay? So $36,000. We've asked you to contribute $300 of that each. $5,400. Okay? I'm fast with math. I might have did it last night, just so I can. But, and we're asking our coaches to commit time in addition to the jobs that they have. Okay? We're asking Stephanie to commit time, and she's doing cohorts similar to this in other parts of the United States. Okay? And so all of us have commitments that we have to make, and it can't happen unless we're in covenant with each other. And I am a strong believer in community, and I am a strong believer in the power of sharing community together. And that's why we open with communion. Okay? And that's why it's my plan that we will open with communion each of the other 3 times that we gather. Because as we come into this space, while we are many churches, while we are 18 different churches, and even more than that with the coaches represented, we are one community, trying to do the same thing, no matter where we're placed. Okay? And so I'm going to ask Christine that if we could have one person from each church raise their hand, and Christine's going to give you a covenant form to look at. Now, there are different kinds of covenants, right? There's a covenant that we'll want you to create with your team about committing to each other and committing that relationship with each other with God and so on. And then there's other kind of covenants, like the covenant of marriage and so on. And then there's this covenant that I'm going to have you look at right now, which has some financial implications to it. Okay? And so it's more than a contract. It's not. I don't even want to call it a contract because we're going to pray over it. So that makes it with God, right? So as you look at it,
Tricky. That's smart.
I know. So as we said earlier, the Smaller Church Ministry Initiative is funded by an investment of a portion of dollars into the Next Gen Ministry budget. This funding equates to nearly $2,000 per participating church in coaching, training, and resources. We're asking each church to participate by contributing $300. These funds will help cover food, hospitality costs, and some other things along the way. As a member church of the 2017-2018 cohort, the team from and for your church on that line, if you would please, agrees to the following commitments. We'll be represented at quarterly training days. We will commit to ensuring that all or part of our team are present and prepared for each meeting. In the event we're unable to attend, we will contact Julie Meyer by email. She said back here. And her email address is there, and we'll give you a copy of this at least 48 hours prior to the training day. Okay? We need to know at least 48 hours to the prior to training. If you know even further ahead of that, then go ahead and email her then, because she's making arrangements for food and different things like that. Okay? Our church will participate in all scheduled coaching calls with their specific coach. We understand that these calls cost $125 per call, potentially. And if our church team misses a scheduled call, this will result in the Next Gen Discipleship having to pay for that call. And if a call must be changed due to an unexpected commitment or conflict, you'll contact Julie Meyer by email to schedule a new call time. 24 hours ahead of that time, please, so that they can get a new call time. So we can let, if it's Stephanie and Christy coaching you, or Stephanie and Mandy coaching you, or one of the other 3 coaching you, which you'll see in a minute, we'll be able to let them know ahead of time and them not get on a call and nobody show up. Okay? And you'll say, that would never happen.
Oh my word.
Yes, it does. All right.
I'm not saying anything about anybody in year 1 or 2, but you know who you are.
Yeah. Our church team will come prepared to the training days by completing the reading assignments and other assigned work. And there is homework, as I said, it's there. Our church team will utilize the Google Drive to share content, access content, handouts, training videos with those team members not unable to attend quarterly training days. And we'll talk more about Google Drive later on in the day. Okay? Any questions about the covenant? So here's what I want you to do. I want everybody that's here from your church to sign the covenant, okay? And I hope that you'll agree to it. But listen, if you said, wow, this is a lot, I'm hitting the door and going over to Carpe Cafe, that's okay. But you'll have to leave the nice books on the table. You don't want to do that. So if you could go ahead and just fill that out, we'll have some of our coaches come around and pick that up. We'll get copies made so you can have a copy to take home. Okay? All right, so let's move forward. So what does the training day format look like? What will today look like? And if you want to, you can look at the schedule. Today's schedule is there in your binder, the second page in your binder. Each day will come together with worship and some type of a welcome together. Okay? Maybe a welcome and then worship, or worship and then welcome. You'll have an AM teaching block, and usually it'll be, most likely, that those teaching sessions will either be me or Stephanie. Okay? Then there'll be some focused input time, and that's during lunch. We are going to feed you, but there will be some work that you'll be doing during lunchtime. In focused input, we'll have some specific things that your coaches that you're with, your group of churches will be together with your coach, and focused input will be driven by that. Okay? Tech time. We're going to talk about how do we use Google Drive and how do we use Google Tools. We believe in using free stuff, and one of the guys that spoke at the Global Leadership Summit was employed by Google for a lot of years and talked about how Google wants us to use this stuff, so let's use it. So we're going to teach you, if you don't know how, we're going to teach you how to use Google Drive completely, how to use Google Slides, Google Spreadsheets, how to use Google Forms, to use it as an attendance app, and so on. We're going to help you build some skills if you don't have it. If you already know how to use some of those tools, then we're going to have you be somebody that's going to teach other folks how to do it too. Okay? I'm a former middle school and high school science teacher, and I'm also a stained glass artist and teacher. So when I teach, and it's a skill, and I teach somebody specifically, then when it's time to teach the next person a skill, sometimes I'll ask whoever I taught to teach that next person. That reinforces learning. Okay? All right. Then there'll be an afternoon teaching time. Then there'll be some time to decompress and talk with your coaches about upcoming homework and different things like that. And then we'll close in prayer and we'll send you on your way. Okay? Make sure that if you haven't put these dates on your calendar, that you go ahead and do that now. Of course, today is August 12th. November 11th is our next one. January 6th has an asterisk or an @ sign next to it because we'd like you to bring some students with you, 2 or 3 that you think are strong leaders in your youth group. We're going to do some training with them and so on, as well with you, and some visioning stuff with you. April 21st is our last time together, and it's going to be a little bit longer day. We're going to ask your district superintendents to be here. We're going to see if we can get on the bishop's calendar, but we have a closing worship celebration for all of you, and we'll do that in the chapel. Okay? So April 21st is an important day. All right. Coaching calls. You will have 6 coaching calls with your coach. Okay? And those happen in September, October, December, February, March, and then you're going to do one, even though we meet in April, you're going to do a call in April, just as a closeout with your coach, and talk about next steps with your coach. Okay? Each of the coaches will talk about how to schedule those with you. Each coach will have their own conference call line, and they'll share that information with you about how to connect. So you don't have to be.
Thank you.
Your team does not have to gather all into the same room to be able to talk with your coach. So if they're traveling, if they're at work, and if they're on their lunch break or whatever, they'll have a conference call line that they can call in. Okay? All right. So who are these folks that are on our team? Mandy introduced them a little bit. And so Christy is the youth minister at Woodbury first, out of Woodbury. And one thing I'll tell you, once we give you access to the Google Drive and so on, that you'll see their bios in there. You can read about them and know their family secrets as well. Mandy Rogers is the youth minister at Westland United Methodist in Lebanon. Woohoo! Okay. Sharon.
I'm just on a woohoo.
Chandra Inglis was over here somewhere. Chandra is the youth minister at Blackman United Methodist. Okay? She was in our first group, right? Okay?
She was, but she always called in for her coaching call.
Julie Meyer is keeps me sane, and she's more than that. She's a coach. She's a next gen ministry assistant. She's a safe sanctuary trainer, and she's a grandma, and she's a marathon runner. So and it's probably because she has to keep up with me and Raylan. So. Christine Gunner is a pastor of Williamsport Circuit. She's been a youth minister. She's told you how long she's been a youth minister. She didn't tell you that she started when she was 3, when she said she been in ministry right now since year 2. So we've been friends for a long time. And then Stephanie Caro in the back. Stephanie.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
She did take a bow and flip her hair if you didn't see it. But Stephanie has been in youth ministry since the times of the disciples. And so she helped Jesus actually recruit those disciples.
It's true.
She taught him how to build a team.
I taught him everything.
Yes.
Even I won't go there.
Anyway, no. She's not. She's amazing. She's a good friend. And then, of course, that's me. In case you didn't realize that. Okay? And my name is Brett Fiskus, and I'm married to a much smarter person, and that's why I'm so smart.
I'm texting her at the moment.
Let's see.
Isn't that weird? I'm texting you.
All right, so let's talk about who's coaching together.
This feels like a like this is like the big reveal.
The big reveal. So Stephanie and Christy, the way that our coaching process works. So last year, Julie, Chandra, and Christine were all partner coaches with Stephanie. And throughout the year, during their coaching calls, Stephanie started doing the coaching, okay? And they listened. And after the coaching call's over, they talked with each other about the process they heard. And as they went through those 6 calls, Stephanie slid back a little bit in her role and more along the way, and then those coaches stepped forward in their role along the way. And it's a model that we'll talk about when we talk about leadership called the I do, you do, we do, you do model. Okay? The I do, we do, you do model. And so that's the model that Christy will be with Stephanie. Okay? So Blankenship, where's Blankenship? That's not enough. Blankenship, where's Blankenship? Okay. Partridge.
You could look more excited.
Laverne first. They're going to be with Christy and Stephanie. Okay? All right?
You get to be with
Coaching with Stephanie is Mandy with Delwood. I'm not sure.
He's on his way.
He's on his way.
Yeah.
Nancy Webb Kelly.
That's going to
Right
cost
there.
him 120.
Williamsport Circuit. All right.
Woohoo!
So we got those 3 churches together. Now, Chandra is going to be coaching Asbury. Woohoo! Smyrna first.
Woohoo!
McMinnville first. Yeah. And Mount Gilead. All right. Then Christine is going to be coaching Craft and Fresh Start. Shepherd.
Woohoo!
Loretto. Savannah first. Julie Meyer will be coaching Homestead.
Yay!
Mount Carmel.
Yay!
New Union.
Yay!
And Pleasant View.
Yay!
And for the big reveal, at the end of the cohort, all of you will be having a call with me in May so that you can tell me what an incredible job your coaches did or what a poor job your coaches did. And then I'll have to look for new coaches. So, but anyway, there'll be some questions that we'll talk about your experience during the cohort. I don't believe in what we learned yesterday again at the GLS was that we are not very good evaluators when evaluating other people. We tend to evaluate people the same way, no matter who they are. So were more about what is your experience? What did you feel like your skills that grew during that time? That's what that coaching call or that call will be like in May. All right? And so here's the deal. Throughout the year, if you need things from us, if you say, hey, I need you to come out, I need somebody to come out and do a training with the church. Like I'm doing a training tomorrow at London First for Safe Sanctuaries. If you need something like that, you just let us know. Let your coach know. They may be the one to come out and do it, or I may be the one to come out and do it. Okay? If there's something you need somebody to come out and talk to parents about being involved in their child's faith journey, that's something that we can do as well. Right? All right? So you think of it, if there are things that you need for us to be able to do, we want to serve you. And for me, if there are things like that that you want me to come out and do and you know ahead of time, let's get them on the schedule now so that I can give you priority for those days. Okay? The other thing that along the way that we're going to add this year that's going to be for everybody, but you're the first to hear about it, there's going to be some webinars that we're going to be doing with some folks. It's hard to get them out on the road, but we can get them into a computer in front of a screen and I can tape them. Okay? One of those people is actually my wife. She's the Deputy Medical Director of the State Department of Health, and she does a lot of work with pediatric mental health and behavior and adolescent mental health. And so I'm going to ask her to do a webinar for us on that. Okay? I'm going to ask one of our Project Transformation staff people who is trained in adverse childhood experiences and how to deal with children and youth that have difficulty being in a setting where they might have to pay attention and so on. So Ali Sokolowski, who's a certified ACE trainer, is going to be a part of a training course on that. Okay? I'll have some children's ministry professionals talk about how they put together Vacation Bible School and so on. All right? And so, so if there's something that you say, hey, I wish we had this training, what we'll do is see if we can find somebody and we'll put together as a webinar. You can join it live through Zoom, or you can join it by watching it through our website. Okay? And I'm going to wrap up, and there's 3 things that I want you to remember. And I'd really like for you to write these 3 down, somewhere that you'll see them throughout the year. The first thing is we want you to build for who you desire to become, not who you currently are. So when we ask you to, we teach you how to use, say, Google Forms and take attendance, or something like that, a new tool to use. We want you to build for who you desire to become, not to say, well, why do I need to take attendance or have an app to do this if I've only got 3 kids? Okay? We're building you for who you desire to become, not who you currently are. Okay? The second thing, real and sustainable change can only happen with a change in the sense of your identity. And so one of the things that you'll read about in the Smaller Church Youth Ministry book is, why did we name it that? Why didn't we just call it Small Church Ministry and Mission? Or why didn't we call it Small Church Youth Ministry? Because we believe that our identity can become sometimes, as when we label ourselves as small, we can use that as an excuse to not do something new. Or we can use this identity of saying, well, we tried that and it failed, so we're not going to do that now. Okay? Or we can't do this, or we can't do that. You don't understand, we don't have enough. Whether it's money, volunteers, time, vision. Okay? Real and sustainable change can only happen if you have a change in the sense of your identity. And so we want to help talk through that process with you. And then the last thing is this. We're going to tell you a ton of information. You're going to have a lot of different information thrown at you through the books, through the coaching, through the teaching sessions. We're not expecting you to just take it all in and then pour it all out and get it all applied and happy, right? But knowing is not enough. You're going to have to figure out what is it that you're going to apply. Okay? What is it you're going to apply? And being willing to apply is not enough. You actually have to do it. You actually have to apply it. You actually have to implement it. Okay? You have to take action. You have to take action. And that's part of the coaching process. That coach, whoever that is, they're going to ask you questions about how have you implemented what you've learned, or what are you implementing from what you've learned, from the training or from the reading and so on. So knowing is not enough. Because we can give you a ton of information and it would just sit there as information, right? But real change happens when you actually put it into action, okay? When you actually put it into action, you actually do something. And so that's in a nutshell why I'm so passionate about this process and this opportunity with you, okay? I truly believe in what we're going to have you go and experience over these next 12 months. I truly believe in the people that we have coaching you and teaching you. I truly believe in the content that you're going to learn. And as we said, if you apply it, and I don't mean you have to apply every single detail because it's going to be different in your context. And that's the thing that I want to make sure you understand. That we're going to teach you a lot of things, but you know your context. Okay? You know your people. You know your culture. And sometimes the culture is the thing that's going to prevent you from actually applying something that needs to be applied. So we'll have to talk about how do we change the culture. Okay? But it's a commitment to step forward and to act. So I'm going to close us at this time in prayer. I'm going to give you the opportunity to grab some coffee in the bathroom if you need to. And then we're going to get ready for Stephanie to start our first teaching session. Let's pray real quick. God, thank you for this commitment that we made. God, we know that that you are always with us. Even in those times where we feel like we're the only one that knows what's going on in the space that we're in. You know what's going on in that space before we even do. So God, help us be those people who are always looking forward to what you have in store for us. Always be those people that are not shackled by the things that we failed with in the past, but are hopeful for the new things that we're going to be able to experience in the future, in the days to come. And so God, how do we then move forward from here? We can only do it with you by our side and in front of us and behind us, sometimes pushing us forward, sometimes picking us up. So thank you again for this opportunity to gather together. And it's in your son's name we pray. Amen. All right, so take